Lt. Riley Kane arrived at 0440, not 0445, not close enough. She moved across the hangar floor with quiet steps. Boots clean, laces tight, flight suit neat. She carried no clipboard. She didn't need one. The UH-60 Blackhawk loomed in the dim light, still in shadow. Riley walked the length of it, hand trailing under the fuselage, checking for leaks, for pressure points, for signs no one else noticed. She climbed the ladder and wiped the windshield clean until it shone. Then, again. She adjusted the cyclic grip, checked trim tabs, cycled through every light, gauge, and indicator without missing a sequence, every switch, twice, fuel pressure, avionics. Turbine start sequences simulated but not engaged. Emergency equipment unlocked, repositioned for fast access. Flight controls moved through range. Doors sealed, then unsealed, then sealed again. No one else had arrived. Riley's hands moved fast, but not rushed. Every movement exact, like she'd done this thousands of times. She had. She just hadn't flown yet. The crew showed up at 05:15 joking, yawning, boots untied. One of them slapped the tail boom, muttering something about it being her morning workout. Riley didn't respond. She handed him the pre-flight log, already filled. He glanced at it, shrugged, walked past her into the cockpit. No one asked how long she'd been there. She remained outside. Eyes scanned the flight line. Light was rising. She squinted slightly at the horizon. Nothing yet. Inside the aircraft. They powered up systems she had already tested. When the turbine spun up, she stood beside the starboard side, watched torque values, temperature rise. She stayed silent. Never stepped in unless someone asked. No one ever asked. Her name was on the roster. Backup pilot. Not co-pilot. Not alternate. Not trainee. Backup. She sat behind the action. She wasn't supposed to speak unless addressed. She wasn't supposed to touch controls unless ordered. She followed every protocol like scripture. Most of the crew didn't know her call sign. Some didn't know her rank. But every mission she prepped left the ground without delay. Every system she touched worked. Every checklist passed the first time. The crew never waited. Not once. There were no medals for readiness, no citation for spotless avionics or calibrated trim tabs. Riley didn't want medals. She trained after everyone left. She stayed in the simulator until the janitorial staff turned off the lights. Her code unlocked the emergency egress trainer every Friday night. Alone. She practiced unstrapping unconscious bodies from harnesses while the fuselage rotated upside down in simulated water. Her locker was organized by operational category. Cold weather gloves were vacuum sealed. She rotated flight boots every 30 days. Not because someone told her, because that's what you do when you don't expect second chances. Once, during a scheduled fuel cell drill, she finished her tasking in half the allotted time. She took the rest to audit the maintenance records on a tail rotor assembly. No one asked her to. She found an error, didn't speak of it, just submitted a correction. The crew chief never said thank you. He just started looking at her differently. She didn't smile much. She didn't sulk either. She listened. She watched. She memorized. When others hit the officers' club, she stayed behind, cataloging serials on night vision gear and running startup sequences in her mind like muscle memory. She had memorized every warning light sequence on the UH-60. She could perform the entire shutdown checklist blindfolded. She'd done it twice, just to know she could. She had no mentor, no rival, no crowd, just the aircraft and the silence before dawn. There was nothing cinematic about her posture, no drama in her movements, just a slow, relentless professionalism. A calm built brick by brick, Rep after rep, check after check. There was no fantasy of glory, no hunger for recognition. Only one question, always repeating in her mind: if they fall apart, will I be ready? She kept the answer private. At 06:10, the lead pilot gave the all clear. Riley stepped back, head slightly lowered, face neutral, no acknowledgement, no nod. The aircraft rose from the tarmac, turbines whining, wheels tucking in. She watched until it disappeared into the lightning sky, then turned, logged out, walked back to the hangar. No one saw her leave. The morning shift arrived 20 minutes later. Everything was ready for them. Riley sat alone in the simulator bay. The room was dark except for the soft glow of the instrument panel. Altimeter, attitude, torque. No one else stayed past 2200. The last tech had left an hour ago. She adjusted throttle inputs, ran through another auto-rotation scenario. She didn't flinch when the simulated engine cut. No reaction when the nose dropped. She recovered without overcorrecting. Just hands, moving like she wasn't thinking anymore. Outside the sim, her name sat third in her training class, not by alphabet, by score. She'd completed over 140 mission profiles, logged more hours in emergency drills than most pilots had logged in the air. During performance evaluations, instructors use phrases like flawless under duress and textbook recovery. One note had circled the review boards for weeks: no wasted motion. Still, her flight status remained unchanged. She never asked why. The memo came quietly. Paper. Standard. Issue. Her request for active flight command denied. Again, cited reason airframe design requires minimum height of 64.5 inches for optimal emergency egress. Kane measures 63 inches without boots. Request denied on grounds of aircrew configuration safety. She folded the paper. Didn't react. Put it in her locker under a logbook. It wasn't personal. The words were written like policy always is. No anger in them, just structure. She stayed late that night. Rerun cold start procedures in a grounded aircraft, practiced loading stretchers into the rear cabin bay, timed herself until she could do it blind, with gloves, while wind noise played through her headset. No one saw her. No one asked. The next morning, she passed by the bulletin board outside the flight office. A new name had been posted, another lieutenant, 2 ranks below her, assigned as primary pilot on medevac rotation. He stood taller, louder, too. The instructors called him Natural Air. He once mistook a low RPM caution light for a fuel warning during a sim. No one mentioned it again. They called it nerves. Riley had never misread a light. During quarterly evaluations, she sat across from a major who'd once flown Apaches. He tapped the screen, reading her file, nodding. He didn't look at her. "You're reliable," he said. She waited. "That's why we need you where you are. You make others better." She nodded once. Didn't move. "You understand?" "Right." She didn't answer. He didn't notice. The words sat in her ears. Reliable. Not decisive. Not commanding. Not essential. Reliable. The word they give to people who never screw up. The ones who never break formation. The ones who are always ready. So others don't have to be. Reliable gets you steady hands. Not control. When the meeting ended, she returned to the tarmac. Her aircraft hadn't moved since yesterday. She opened the side hatch, pulled out her logbook, rechecked the hydraulic pressure gauge for the auxiliary system, repositioned the onboard medical kits. She made no noise doing it, no announcement. She just worked. That night, she returned to the simulator. She flew 3 blackout scenarios, 2 enemy fire drills, 1 rotor failure with asymmetric thrust. Each time, she landed intact. Each time, faster than the training model expected. At 01:20, she shut it down. The room was silent. The only sound was the soft hiss of the cooling fan in the console. Outside, it was raining. She didn't run for shelter. She walked slowly, counting steps. The next morning, she stood behind the primary pilot on a mission brief. He looked back once, gave a casual nod. She didn't return it. They were running standard evac drills, nothing out of profile. 3 wounded, simulated, no live fire. She reviewed the flight manifest, memorized every patient file. Internal bleeding, compound fracture, chest trauma. The other crew members laughed over breakfast burritos in the break room. Riley sat apart, skimmed rotor RPM failure procedures from a laminated card she'd reprinted herself. Her copy had margins annotated, handwritten, not highlighted. That afternoon, she ran hydraulic bleed-down checks again. Not required. She just did. Another day, another name got listed above hers on the mission roster. She said nothing. But she flew every flight in her mind before they ever left the ground. The UH-60 lifted off at 06:35. Blades carved the air clean. Vibration low. Instruments in the green. Captain Dawson flew left seat. Riley sat right. Backup observer. Not co-pilot. She monitored secondary systems. Their mission medical evacuation to forward operating site Echo. 3 wounded priority 2. Not critical. Standard route. Under 90 nautical miles. Weather calm. Skies overcast but stable. Riley watched the torque readout. Slight drop. Nothing irregular. RPM held. Hydraulic pressure normal. At 2,000 feet, they turned east by northeast. Visibility stretched 10 miles. Crew and back ran their checks. One medic double-checked straps on the litters. Casualties were quiet. IV bags tapped gently with each shift. Riley looked down. Terrain below rolled in forest and shadow. Elevation varied. Patches of rock showed between the trees. She tuned the secondary comms panel. Heard faint static. Not sharp. Not loud. But wrong. She glanced at the GPS display. Sync was 2 seconds slow from onboard weather data. Minor, but off. She tapped the comms unit. Flicked through channels. Still there. Underneath voice traffic. A faint hum. Not power line. More like dampened jamming low bandwidth spread. Not enough to scramble. Just distort. Captain Dawson didn't look up. "Sir," she said over intercom, noticing intermittent signal distortion. Could indicate early stage electronic interference. He chuckled. Mountains hold metal. Reflections mess with readings. Riley didn't respond. She ran diagnostics on the secondary antenna array. Everything showed nominal. Still. The static remained. She turned to the environmental system. Cross-checked it with terrain readings. Humidity came in slightly high. Ambient temp 2 degrees below forecast. Could be nothing. Could be weather fronts. Could be shadow from hill range, redirecting wind flow. Still, it didn't feel right. She switched to the binocular unit clipped beside her seat. Stabilized zoom. She scanned tree lines ahead, far edge of a ridgeline. At first, nothing. Then movement. Subtle. Unnatural. 2 positions. Equidistant. Northeast flank. Thermal anomaly readouts showed sustained heat signatures. No flicker. No deviation. Not wildlife. She keyed intercom. Calm. Steady. 2 heat signatures northeast. Bearing 061. Stationary. High symmetry. Could be concealed weapons nests. Potential anti-aircraft setup. Dawson sighed. You fly long enough. You start seeing ghosts in brush. They're probably just deer taking a nap. He didn't adjust course. Riley leaned back. Didn't argue. She kept watching the blip. She marked its coordinates on her notepad. Dated. Timed. Indexed. Folded it once. Tucked it under her knee pad. From the back cabin, a medic radioed patient vitals. All stable. Crew. Quiet. The hum returned. Stronger this time. Lasted 3 seconds. Riley adjusted her headset. Captain Dawson tapped the cyclic, looked ahead. Still good weather. Still clean air. Riley said nothing, but her hand lingered near the alternate comm panel. The sun had climbed to low angle now. Visibility remained clear, but the ridgeline ahead began to look less benign. Shapes blurred too perfectly into slope lines, foliage layered too evenly. No animal would sit still that long. She didn't speak again. She just noted wind speed, marked heading drift, cross-checked engine temp, comm integrity, and topographical behavior against everything she'd drilled 100 times before, and waited. Riley recalibrated the FLIR lens. The thermal overlay flickered once, then sharpened. 2 bright shapes emerged through the false canopy. Perfect ovals. Fixed. No movement, no bleed out, no heat scatter typical of organic life. She tracked both signatures. Elevation matched the slope. Spacing held it just over 50 meters apart, too far for animals to bed together. Too symmetrical for randomness. She tilted the lens, magnified, focused, metal edges, angled, no rust, clean lines beneath the foliage, masked under netting. Infrared bloom indicated heat cycling residual warmth from recent ignition. Probably idle. Not cold. The shapes didn't move, but they breathed heat like machines. She keyed her mic again. Captain, confirming anomaly. Thermal returns remain fixed, consistent with static weapon emplacements. Probability of anti-aircraft configuration. Dawson didn't look over. You know, Morgan once spotted a barn full of cows and called it a hidden mortar site. Had the whole base on alert. Turned out to be dairy stock. Let's not repeat that. His hands remained on the controls. Light touch. Casual. Riley didn't respond. She marked the GPS coordinates in her kneeboard. Date, time, altitude, bearings. She underlined her notes twice. Small movements. No urgency. She switched from thermal to optical. Leaves had been arranged unnaturally. Straight edges interrupted the natural pattern of shadow. Dust trails, faint and fresh, crossed behind the slope. She noted everything. No panic. No emotion. No follow-up warning. She rotated through radio channels. Noted static bands again. On a different frequency this time. Low-band distortion, consistent with sweep jamming. Weak, deliberate. She switched back to internal comms. Monitored cabin. Wounded soldiers stable. IV drips still hung clean. Medics focused on vitals. No one else saw what she saw. Wind vector shifted slightly. 10 degrees south. Enough to scatter a launch signature. Enough to blow concealment off its line. She logged that too. Captain Dawson hummed something under his breath. Country tune. He shifted in his seat, adjusted trim, clicked the throttle forward. They picked up another 20 knots. ETA's holding. Relax. Riley watched the ridge grow closer. Trees packed, tight. No light between trunks. She couldn't see the weapon shape directly. But she'd seen the mount configuration before in sims, in photos, in training debriefs from other theaters. Tripod-based, low recoil, likely man-pad or shoulder-adapted hybrid. Something with infrared lock, short burst, single trigger pull. She wrote that down. She kept watching. Dawson cracked his neck, smirked. You backup types get too much simulator time. Start seeing things we don't. She didn't speak. The vibrations in the frame changed slightly. Imperceptible to most. She adjusted the environmental settings, measured wind shear against heading. A turbulence pocket was forming small but rising. Nothing out of regulation. But the change made her fingers tighten slightly on the seat rail. Ahead, the ridgeline curved. The anomalies disappeared from her lens as foliage thickened. She marked the final visual timestamp, then shut the lens down. Another page in her kneeboard filled. She folded it, slid it behind her left leg strap. Routine. She looked ahead, silent, and waited. The first RPG passed close, too close. It streaked across the starboard side, trailing smoke, a hiss like tearing canvas. Missed the rotor mast by 6 feet. Riley didn't flinch. She'd already spotted the trailhead flash. Contact right. RPG, she said. The second came faster. It struck just aft of the exhaust housing, starboard engine compartment. Detonation blew a hole through the outer cowling. Shrapnel peppered the fuselage. Flames burst sideways. The Black Hawk bucked. Alarms triggered in sequence. Master caution. Engine fire. Hydraulic pressure. RPM decay. Captain Dawson jerked in his seat, hands tightening on the cyclic. Then a spray of fractured plexiglass caught him across the forehead. He grunted, slumped forward. Blood ran down his face. Smoke filled the cockpit. Acrid. Electrical. Riley pulled the fire extinguisher lever for engine 2. Pulled again. Indicator light didn't go out. She toggled intercom. Cabin. Brace. We've taken starboard engine hit. In the rear, medics shouted for straps. One casualty came loose, rolled across the floor. Equipment clanged. Vitals beeped, then flatlined. Someone screamed. The aircraft pitched left, nose down. Riley reached across Dawson's lap, took partial control of the collective. He groaned, semi-conscious. Blood soaked his collar. His right boot dragged uselessly against the floor. The Black Hawk dropped 200 feet in under 5 seconds. More fire outside. Small arms now. Tracers lit the air. Yellow-white bursts. They were being walked in gunners adjusting based on rotor flash. Fuselage shuddered again. Tail rotor RPM spiked, then corrected. Control lag increased. Riley keyed backup comms. Falcon 2-7, taking fire. Multiple impacts. Starboard engine out. Pilot down. Request immediate extraction support. Over. Static answered. Too much interference. She checked altitude. 1,400 feet. Losing 10 feet per second. Dawson reached weakly toward the controls. His hand trembled. Don't let her go, he whispered. Then his head dropped against the panel. Nose down, chin to chest. Riley exhaled once. No emotion. Just procedure. She scanned the engine page. Temp rising. Pressure dropping. She cut fuel to engine 2. Fire warning light blinked 3 more times. Rear cabin screamed again. The aircraft pitched forward, started to yaw. Riley pulled cyclic back. Limited response. Tail rotor torque was holding. Just enough. She glanced right. Smoke through the firewall. They were losing altitude, airspeed, power. And the ridge wasn't behind them anymore. It was below. The nose dropped fast. Right yaw. Rate of descent climbing past safe margin. Riley watched the altimeter spool. Dawson slumped fully, his hands limp across the cyclic. Blood ran down his cheek, pooling under his chin strap. 3 seconds. She slid her boots under the pedals. Hands closed around the collective and cyclic. Muscle memory took over. She rolled the throttle to idle on both engines. Cut power. Main rotor disengaged. Rotor RPM began free spinning. Auto rotation. No panic. No ceremony. Just process. She flared the nose to reduce drag. Angle corrected by 3 degrees. Airspeed stabilized at 70 knots. Enough to keep the rotor speed alive without overspeeding the system. Descent rate still high. She scanned forward dense trees, uneven terrain, no clean field, then barely an opening. 80 meters across, marshy center, edged by pine. She banked left, shallow. Trees brushed the skids. Limited visibility, nose level. RPM in the green. Cabin screams behind her. Unimportant now. 500 feet AGL. She adjusted collective slightly to prevent rotor overspeed. Eyes flicked between attitude indicator, vertical speed, and terrain. Tail stayed aligned. No tail rotor failure yet. She kept right pedal pressure neutral. Countered slight yaw drift. Wind shifted. She made no adjustment. Let the aircraft ride it. She called over intercom. Impact in 15 seconds. Brace rear. Medics secure patients. One medic answered barely audible. Riley didn't reply. She pulled the nose up into a flare. 100 feet. Rotor inertia peaked. She pulled collective to cushion descent. Rate slowed from 1,800 feet per minute to under 500. Final flare. The aircraft hit soft ground. Skids dug in. Nose pitched. Right side dipped. Tail boom clipped a low branch but held. Impact ran through the frame. Gear shifted. Cabin groaned. Silence followed. Smoke still curled from the right engine housing. But the rotor turned. Slowly. Still alive. Dawson coughed beside her. Eyes rolled back. Behind her, the medic called out status. Everyone conscious. 2 injuries worsened. 1 crewman bleeding from his scalp. But no fatalities. Riley powered down the systems. Killed main battery. Unlatched her harness. Sat still for 4 seconds. Breathing steady. She reached up. Pulled the circuit breaker on the comm relay. Then rewired the backup manually. Static flared, then cleared. She keyed the mic. Falcon 2-7. Aircraft down. Engine failure. Survivors on board. Request extraction and support. Grid coordinates to follow. She gave numbers. Then released the mic. No one spoke to her. No one needed to. Riley opened the right cabin door. Morning haze clung to the tree line. Visibility moderate. She pulled the thermal monocular from the side pouch, activated it, scanned left to right. Heat signatures. 6. 3 approaching from the north. 2 east. 1 south. Spread tight. Moving slow. Coordinated spacing. No chatter. She stepped back into the cockpit. Captain Dawson was semi-conscious. Bleeding controlled. Stable. For now. She checked systems. Main rotor blades intact. Transmission secure. Hydraulic pressure green. Engine 1 stable. Engine 2 disabled. Comms primary link dead. Backup transmitting, but garbled. Carrier tone held. Range limited. IFF beacon still blinking. She accessed the overhead panel. Ran a quick diagnostic on the defensive aids suite. Chaff ready. Flares full. Weapon system M134 minigun mount operable. No jamming. Rear gunner down concussion. Likely, but a medic sat nearby. Alert. Riley turned to him. You shot anything bigger than an M4? He nodded. Once. Training. She pointed at the minigun. You're qualified now. Point. Suppress. Don't chase. He nodded again, hands shaking slightly. She stepped toward the cabin bulkhead. The 2 medics looked up, one of them still applying pressure to a litter patient's leg. We're not staying, Riley said. Engine 1's clean. Rotors responsive. We lift in 5. The older medic frowned. What if they open up during takeoff? They will... She stepped back into the cockpit, powered up auxiliary systems. Batteries stable, fuel light, but sufficient for short return. She toggled to backup comms. Falcon 2-7, under fire. Multiple hostiles inbound. Will attempt tactical extraction. Provide response vector if able. Crackling reply, barely audible. Roger, stand by. QRF dispatched. ETA 10. Enough. She reached down, cinched her harness, switched ignition. Engine 1 came alive, low vibration. Quick spool up. Rotor turned. Pitch set. RPM rising. Riley glanced at the tree line again. Heat signatures still advancing. She looked at the wounded, then forward, and pushed the throttle forward. Riley pulled pitch. The UH-60 lifted clean. Nose forward. Low. Trees brushed the skids. Tail rotor cleared the canopy by inches. She banked left, Stayed under 300 feet, AGL. Fast contour flying. Rotor wash snapped branches as she passed. Enemy movement rear arc, 100 meters. Faint muzzle flashes between pines. She rolled into a shallow turn. Targeting screen lit. She keyed intercom. Gunner. Left arc. Engage when ready. The medic-turned gunner swung the minigun. Held fire. Now. He pulled the trigger. The 6-barrel weapon spun to life. M134 barked 7.62 millimeter in short. Ripping bursts. Not spray suppress. Riley adjusted pitch to hover momentarily, then dropped nose again. Speed 80 knots. Heading 060. She reached up, switched to secure channel. Falcon 27. Engaged. Enemy ground forces. Marking location. She triggered smoke. Red burst dropped from undercarriage. Coordinates grid 43TWN239785. Hot. Request fire team insertion south slope. I will provide cover. Crackled reply. Copy. Inbound now. 5 mics out. She cut south, then circled wide. Regained visual. Heat signatures scattering. 2 retreating downslope. 1 held position near the ridge. She didn't hesitate. Second pass. Clean approach. Rotor RPM steady. Engine 1 temp stable. RPM within green band. She lined the minigun. No lock system. Manual aim. Precision flying. 2-round burst. Tree base. 10 degrees low. Trigger squeezed. Suppression burst. Dust lifted. Foliage tore. Enemy fire stuttered off mark. Blind return. Another mark popped on radar-friendly fast movers. She keyed mic. Friendly QRF. Adjust heading northeast ridge. Targets marked with smoke. I'm overhead. Will provide fly cover. Response Raj. Moving. She circled again. Small, tight loop. Blade pitch low to hold altitude. This time no fire came back. She hovered just long enough to confirm movement boots on ground. Friendly forces advanced. Enemy routed. 3 detained. 1 down. No return fire. No casualties. She banked right. Turned for base. No one cheered. Riley brought the Black Hawk in low over the base perimeter. Approach vector exact. Wind calm. RPM steady. No need for verbal cue. She flared at 70 feet. Bleed speed. Nose lifted. Skids down. Touchdown 2 inches inside the chalk pad. Blades slowed. Engines spooled down. Rotor brake engaged. She kept her hands on the controls until all movement ceased. No one spoke in the cockpit. Rear cabin opened. Medics exited first. One of them limping. One carrying the worst casualty. The other 2 helped Dawson out. One arm around his shoulder. Blood still crusted his cheek. He paused before stepping off. Looked at her. Didn't say a word. Outside. People had gathered, hangar staff, flight crews, mechanics still in coveralls. Some clapped. Most just stood. She didn't acknowledge them. Riley shut down systems. Battery off. Circuit breakers checked. Flight data unit removed. She logged rotor hours manually on the sideboard. Fuel remaining 221 pounds. More than enough. She flipped the checklist closed. The crew chief stepped up. Hell of a landing. Lieutenant. She handed him the log. He looked at it, then at her. Said nothing else. She moved past him. Boots hitting the tarmac without sound. Dawson sat on a stretcher. IV line in place. He turned his head slowly as she passed. I've flown 15 years, he said. She stopped. He blinked. Pain dulled his voice. Never saw anyone do what you did. Not like that. She didn't answer. She walked into the hangar. Inside. It was quiet. She opened her locker, removed her kneeboard, slid the last page into a sealed folder, placed it in the top drawer, closed it. She sat on the bench, removed her gloves, checked the cuffs of her flight suit, cleaned grease from under her nails using a square of tape. The door opened behind her. Someone stepped in, paused, then left. She stood, walked back to the aircraft, opened the starboard access panel, Inspected the damage. Engine housing torn but intact. Rotor shaft would need replacement. Forward avionics base scorched. She cleaned the blood from the co-pilot's throttle, used alcohol wipes, then rechecked the emergency fire lever. It still stuck slightly. She noted that on the clipboard. Another crew chief approached. "We'll start repairs after turnover." She nodded. Once. Turned. Walked away. No one stopped her. The promotion letters came one by one. Command track. Squadron lead. Instructor billet at Randolph. Then something higher staff job at the Pentagon. Civilian liaisons. Congressional briefings. Full pension early. She declined them all. Her reply was the same every time. "I'd rather teach." They stopped asking. She remained at the base. Same locker. Same shift. Her new role was unofficial at first. No title. Just presence. Then junior pilots started following her in the mornings, watching her do pre-flight alone in the hangar while the sun hadn't yet cleared the ridge. They copied her logs, checked their hydraulic reservoirs twice, memorized every checklist page. By week 3, someone brought their own torque wrench. Not required. Riley didn't comment. They called it the Morgan Standard. She never corrected them. She never talked about what happened. The medals came in a wooden box. Silver wings with oak leaf cluster. Distinguished Flying Cross. A letter from the Chief of Staff. She opened it once. No ceremony. No inspection. She slid the box onto the top shelf of the aircraft's equipment locker. Inside, she left a folded note, handwritten in black ink. "Don't wait to notice. Prepare first." No signature. It stayed there. New crews found it during turnover checks. No one ever removed it. Riley didn't change her routine. She still arrived 20 minutes early. Still cleaned the anti-fog lenses with lens paper. Not wipes. Still calibrated radios manually. Still ran blade angle tests without being asked. No one ordered her to do any of it. The instructors didn't call her mentor. They just stepped back when she entered a training room. When she flew with students, she didn't say much. She corrected by gesture, by silence, by repeated movement. One day, a trainee panicked during a dead stick drill, froze at 200 feet. Riley reached over, made one adjustment. Then, let him try again. He landed the bird clean on the third attempt. Didn't say a word. Neither did she. He asked to be reassigned to her full time. Word spread. More came. They asked her about that day. She never answered. She took them to the sim bay, loaded the worst-case profile, pulled the headset down, watched. Most failed the first time. She said nothing. Just reset the program. They learned by failing with her sitting next to them. Quiet. Still. Focused. She had no motto. But crews started saying one on their own. Backup doesn't mean lesser. It means ready. She never corrected that either. The sky doesn't care who's listed first on the manifest. It doesn't recognize titles, ribbons, or rank. When things go wrong, it listens for hands steady on the controls, for minds that do the math while the ground rushes up fast. That day, one person was ready. Not loud, not chosen, just ready. You don't get a warning. No red carpet, no countdown. Sometimes it's blood on the dash, smoke in your lungs, and a split second to act. Riley didn't ask for the chance. She prepared for it anyway. In silence, in habit, in drills, no one watched. She sat in back, listened more than she spoke, studied every inch of the aircraft until it was part of her body, mapped every contingency twice, wrote procedures from memory for no audience. And when it came, when the sky fell apart, she didn't hesitate. No shout, no glory, just one choice, just readiness. So here's the question, not for her, for you. Were you ready? Will you be? because backup never meant second best. It means next.